Ever since Prometheus gave fire to humanity, people have been seeking bigger and better ways to burn each other. Sure, this stick is fun, but have you ever hit someone with a torch? Arrows are neat, but what if you dip the arrowhead in bitumen and set it aflame, and then fire it at your nearest person who looks at you funny? It's a long and flammable tradition, which carries forward all the way to the 31st and 32nd centuries with the particle projection cannon. Sure, lasers are fun, but have you tried shooting a man-made lightning bolt at your target? The particle projection cannon was an advancement in weapons technology closely tied to the development of the battle mech. In fact, the first true battle mech, the Mackie, was armed with one. Although the make and model has been lost in the sands of time, the PPC and the battle mechs that carry them have stayed together ever since. Many of the iconic mechs of the succession wars, like the Warhammer, Marauder, and Battlemaster, carried the noble PPC into battle. Through countless conflicts, revolutions, police actions, and minor kerfuffles, history has been written in azure PPC fire. But what is a PPC? According to official sources for such things, a particle projector cannon, or PPC, is an energy weapon that fires a concentrated stream of protons or ions at a target. This results in a transfer of energy with both the transfer of tremendous amounts of heat as well as impacting with a significant amount of kinetic energy. In terms of a small child can understand, it's a lightning gun. During the succession wars, with the degradation of technology that would come from hundreds of years of conflict, the PPC held its status as a powerful long-distance weapon that could bore through all but the thickest of armor. Star League-era designs like the Panther 9R continued to be constructed and used extensively by the Draconis Combine throughout the succession wars. The Capellans took to the Vindicator, which used a Series Arms Smasher's PPC as its primary weapon. The mech became a go-to design, though what mechs the Capellans did produce, they guarded jealously. The rest of the Inner Sphere states saw value in the Griffin, a 55-ton mech armed with a Fusagun particle projector cannon and an LRM-10. Even though it's a rather dated design, even by standards of the Succession Wars, it could be found serving in militaries across the galaxy. Before the Succession Wars, with Kerensky's exodus from the Inner Sphere, they took a lot of SLDF battlemechs with them. This included many of the remaining Galahads, a 50-ton mech originally intended to replace the Rifleman. It was armed with 2 Magna Hellstar PPCs and 2 large lasers. Even with 13 double heat sinks, this would be a very toasty mech if heat isn't managed effectively. Of all the Succession War-era mechs that carry PPCs, there are few as iconic as the Warhammer, Awesome, and the Marauder. Each of these mechs carries at least 2 PPCs and have enough heat sinks to manage their pretty consistent firing. When I asked on Twitter what mech they thought of with the PPC, many of them highlighted one of these 3 classic designs. It made me want to try to sort out how to emulate the original Mechwarrior game after all this was posted. During the days of the SLDF, PPC hits had the tendency to cause electrical issues in both the target and the firing mech. These issues were handled through the addition of dampers, which insulated electrical systems. For the firing mech, field inhibitors were developed to limit the power of the PPC at under 90 meters in order to prevent feedback from destroying the weapon and damaging the mech. However, there are many stories of bold or foolhardy mechwarriors disengaging their inhibitors in order to surprise a target with close-range fire, or to just squeeze out one more shot that could be the difference between life and death. The Extended Range PPC, or ER-PPC for short, was developed in 2751 to greatly increase the range of the weapon, at the cost of significantly more heat production. However, this technology was developed late in the history of the Star League, and it would end up being lost over the course of the Succession Wars. It was simply too new and not included in many mech designs before things fell apart. One of the Star League era mechs that did have an ERPPC was the SPT-N2 Spartan, which was equipped with a Terran-based Martinson Armaments Kinslaughter H-Class ERPPC. It was designed and produced in the years leading up to the Ameris coup. The 80-ton mech had all the bells and whistles, including an XL engine, double heat sinks, and the previously mentioned ERPPC. It was cutting edge at the time it was produced, though, unfortunately, its production line was destroyed during the Ameris coup. And as a result of the Succession Wars, the Spartan has become one of the most rarely seen mechs in the galaxy. As a testament to the success of the PPC, there were many attempts to improve on the original design over the centuries. Reductions in weight and size often came at the price of lower damage output, and decreased range. Eventually, the PPC capacitor was developed and mass-produced in 3081, which improved on the damage output by 5, but with a significant boost in heat for the firing mech. The Draconis Combine would spend a considerable amount of effort creating several new designs of PPC that would show up in the late 3060s. One of their breakthrough advances was known as the Heavy PPC. Introduced in 3067, the Heavy PPC was able to match the damage and heat production of the Clan ER-PPC, which we'll get to in a bit. However, this came at a steep cost of a much heavier and bulkier weapon. Its range also couldn't quite meet the Clan ER-PPCs. Even with its disadvantages, the Heavy PPC would be incorporated into many upgrades and some new battlemech designs during the Dark Age era. On the other side of the coin, the Combine also introduced the Light PPC, which weighs only 3 tons, does half as much damage as a standard PPC, but otherwise shares the range characteristics of the original. If it wasn't for that range advantage, the Light PPC would not be able to compete with the standard Inner Sphere medium laser. The third notable advance in Inner Sphere PPC technology is the snub-nosed PPC. It was the result of efforts to eliminate the danger of using a particle projection cannon in close range with the field inhibitors turned off. What engineers ended up with is a PPC that did perform well at those closer ranges, but suffered at longer distances. It's 1 ton lighter than a standard PPC and takes up 1 less critical slot, which is all great. The energy of the weapon dissipates quickly over range, however, resulting in less damage over short, medium, and long ranges, 10, 8, and 5 respectively. Now, I've seen the snub-nosed PPC described as a PPC shotgun, but I haven't been able to find any conclusive authority on it. Even though the HBS Battletech game mod I use does treat it much like an Energy LBX autocannon with a scattershot, I don't think it should be considered official, as there's no source book that I can find that suggests this uses a cluster table for hits. Where I think this came from is Sarna, which references the snub-nosed PPC as what a sawed-off shotgun is to a shotgun, but that doesn't necessarily imply a shotgun effect so much as just removing that minimum range limitation. It's a neat idea though. The clans continued to appreciate the power of the PPC and refined their ER-PPCs to be more compact and weigh less. With the invasion of the Inner Sphere, ER-PPCs were key to the loadouts of many mechs like the Warhawk, Hellbringer, Timberwolf Config A, and the Direwolf Config B. Being able to shoot farther than the standard PPCs most Inner Sphere mechs were carrying in 3049, hitting harder and taking up less space in the mech was a nearly insurmountable battlefield advantage. There are many tales of Inner Sphere Mechwarriors being hit with a single ER-PPC and losing their footing when nearly a ton of armor evaporates or melts into slag. Though a lot of effort has gone into trying to replicate clan technology, the engineers and scientists of the Inner Sphere have been unable to fully match the clan version of the ER-PPC. By the 3100s, mechs like the Black Knight 5H are really just equipped with the clan version of the weapon. It's undeniable that across the Battletech IP, there are few weapons more iconic and well-remembered than the PPC. From tales of tabletop conquest or tragedy to video games which each had their own unique take on the weapon, fans of Battletech have always had a story to tell. If you have a PPC story, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. If you haven't already, check out the LB10X video linked on the screen right now. So thanks again for watching. I really enjoy making these videos. I like digging through all of the source books and materials and piecing these little stories and history lessons together. So with that, please take care, be awesome, and go make the world a slightly better place today and tomorrow.